Today's LEGO City update is going to be wild, to be honest with you. First of all, I have to start off by cutting base plates in order to make space for the upper platform. I actually always have a concept when cutting base plates. You'll see that during the video. Next up, it's time to go outside and quickly prepare the new upper platform, which is a bit smaller than the old one, but stretches further to the right. And what you can see me doing right here is placing that on top of the two train tracks, which disappear behind this row of houses right there. And now towards the front of this upper platform, I have to create this sort of diagonal on top of the tunnel. I was initially thinking about diagonally cutting base plates, but honestly, this would have been too illegal even for me, and therefore I've decided to use these cut plates and create this giant triangle, which is perfectly fitted to the section on top of the angled train tunnel. And next up, because everything is at a 45-degree angle, I created these support beams with flat tiles on top, so no studs at this point, and only connected the triangle at the two sides and therefore lock everything in place, which is obviously important for everything to hold together. Then I was experimenting with this old module I had remaining because I wanted to add a rock face on the right hand side of the tunnel, but the problem was this module was too small and therefore, well, this had to go. Yeah, I know I probably could have carefully dismantled it as well, but this is the much more fun way to do it. And next up, out of all the pieces I've won from this module, I now designed the next staircase for the other side of the train tracks. There you can see me preparing the next module. Once again, I know I have to cut base plates because it's simply so much cheaper. You could theoretically do it otherwise, but it saves so much money. And this is now the next module I've prepared on the right-hand side of the tunnel, on which now this new staircase is being placed, as well as the rock face in front of the staircase. In the back, however, I unfortunately didn't have the exact pieces I needed for this wall right here, and therefore this isn't detailed enough. I will surely revise this wall because, well, it's a bit boring at the moment. And then it was already time for me to start with the support structure for the rock face, although at this point I was thinking about not having a real rock face, but an entire rock section going towards the front, towards the harbor and the bay area, and then connecting everything with a lighthouse being placed on top. I'll show that during the end of the video what I'm planning at the moment for this section. Behind this rock face and the staircase, I now prepared more support columns for the next part of the upper platform, which is not placed on top of the wooden platform I'm actually sitting on right now. And this is this giant L-shaped plate I'm placing on top, which was honestly a bit difficult to connect because of the sheer size of it. And then towards the front, once again, I was deciding to add another wall, obviously only on top because the rest will be covered with more rock face or maybe even a building. Now, in order to connect these two new platforms, I now of course had to perfectly adapt the height, and what I'm actually doing in this case is using two plates to match the exact height of these two parts of the upper platform. And since I still have a bit of room remaining underneath these three modules right here, I can once again, which is the reason I'm elevating everything, have cables running along beneath. The only section that will be a bit more difficult is integrating the road in the back. Next up, I was now working on a bit more details for this rock face, which isn't really a rock face, but an entire rock area, as I've mentioned just a second ago. I was deciding to use earth green or dark green, however you want to call it in this case, as a foundation, and now switch up the vegetation in comparison to the normal vegetation I'm using towards the back of the LEGO City right here in front, which is closer to the visitor. I can use a bit more expensive leaves. In this case, I think one leaf costs 50 cents, which honestly adds up if you cover larger areas with these leaves right there. But I thought this would be nice to switch things up a bit. Now it was already time for me to start the planning on how exactly I want to have the buildings placed on this upper platform. This was of course really satisfying because I had already done the work preparing, designing and building all these buildings for the upper platform. And now it was time for me to think about how exactly I want to arrange the buildings. As you might know by now, I want to get rid of straight lines, and therefore I was really experimenting with adding different interesting angles. What I will most likely do, however, is divide this giant block of houses into 2 or 3 different ones in order to create different interesting perspectives. What I'm doing right now, also already in preparation for the next video, is add a bit more contrast along this wall onto the upper platform using black fences. However, we'll see how this exactly looks with the tiling behind the fences. And now back to the topic I was talking about at the very beginning of the video, why I'm only cutting base plates by 16 studs because right here you can see I can reuse all these base plates I've cut because they are simply still modular. And now in this area I was either thinking about extending the rock face, adding several different angled buildings as well as a lighthouse right there represented by the fire extinguisher, or something else. I'll show you live. Since so many of you wanted me to bring back the tram line, I was now thinking about reinstalling it along the harbor right here in front, going around the corner and then disappearing underneath the upper platform. I know that, for example, in Belgium as well as in Spain, there are cities where this is the case, which would then as well be my inspiration. On this corner, I was now thinking about maybe adding buildings into this rock face. This could be really interesting. Of course, I would have to build buildings specifically designed for this section right here, but I honestly really like how this building disappears back here, and then also the new building would be designed in order to then connect onto the upper platform as well. This was an idea I had, and then in front we would have the tram line going, but definitely let me know that in the comment section. Then we really have to take a look on the other side of the Lego City, because there was something quite a lot of you wanted me to maybe add, which is this thing right here. This is an original Lego piece from 2004, so quite old actually. And you can see that by the metal on top right there. It's compatible with the old 9-volt tracks. So this would be probably the position I would then integrate it. We have this train track running directly towards this train track. They would then meet at a 90-degree angle, allowing us to add this section. And now as I'm extending the train track, you can see the first problem that occurs. I'd have to exactly reach the point where I could even integrate this train crossing in the first place, because we can't simply place it anywhere in the train track. You have to get an exact spot in order to be able to integrate it there. And then back here, the next problem I'm having is that first of all, the train tracks are too close to the building right there, which means I'd further have to get it closer to the street. And then on the other side, I want to build a tunnel right here, which would then lead to me having to combine the tunnel for the road as well as the train track, which could honestly look a bit weird. And then once again, I'd have to add another railway crossing, but in this case with this pattern right there, I need to extend from the tiling, which would make things even further complicated. So as you can see, this is actually quite difficult for me at the moment. So as you can see, the planning still unfortunately takes up quite a lot of time. Since you guys always want me to add a before and after picture, I've this time now tried to do it. Unfortunately, it's always quite difficult to get the exact perspective. This is now the before picture, and then I've tried to recreate the after perspective. This is what it now looks like afterwards. Of course, the progress looks even more than it actually is, because I was adding buildings I had already prepared beforehand. But still, the most difficult part on this upper platform right here, integrating the 45-degree angle from the train tunnel, is done, and that now allows me to finally start building and integrating the buildings on this upper section as well. So with that being said, that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again in the next one.